What harmless things do you do to mess with people on an everyday basis? Did not do this intentionally, but definitely inadvertently mess with our receptionist today. So I was ordering glasses online and was filling out the order form. I had all the information except for my pupillary distance. I read online that this information can be determined by measuring the distance between your pupils in millimeters. So I got up and started asking folks if anyone had a ruler. A couple did, but not one with metric measurements. So I go up to the receptionist and ask if she has a ruler with millimeters on it. She says yes. I ask if I can use it for a second. I get the ruler and go into the bathroom within the receptionist's field of view, where I measure the distance, 69 millimeters, if anyone is curious. I exit the bathroom and hand the receptionist back the ruler. She gave me kind of a weird look and hesitantly took it back. As I was walking back to my office, I realized that all the information she had was that I needed a ruler and proceeded to walk into the bathroom and walk out, returning her ruler. I think she assumed I was measuring something other than my pupil distance. Well, at least he didn't ask her to hold the ruler steady for him. That would have been a whole different kind of awkward. Story 2. Part of what I do on my job in a restaurant is cut some bread into pieces and serve it at the table. We're supposed to give 2 pieces per person. This ridiculously awkward couple came in the other night. It looked like a first date or something. It's a nice place, but they were definitely overdressed and they looked like they had no idea how to act around the opposite gender. So, since they were having such a hard time talking to each other and were so shy, I intentionally cut them 5 pieces of bread instead of 4. So there would have to be some sort of moment where they both realized they each have had 2 pieces and that one remained. I knew they would both want it because the bread we serve is amazingly good, probably the best I've ever had at a restaurant. When I don't eat before work, I eat the bread as a meal. I watch them. It sort of worked. It actually went way smoother than expected. I was kind of hoping for some awkward, you can have it, no, you can have it exchange. Story 3. Admin of a Minecraft server here. Sometimes I go invisible and take one heart away from someone. They start looking around, confused to see what attacked them. Back in 1.7, I ran my own small server for my friends. I installed a bucket mod that would allow me to become completely invisible. Naturally, I didn't tell them about it. I started gradually messing with them by dropping a random item on the floor of their house, removing their torches so they weren't symmetrically placed anymore. One time I kept coming back to break the same crop and replant it so it never appeared to grow. It's bad enough when this happens naturally. I had a lot of fun with that before just being really silly, walking across the room to access a chest, turn back around and there's a block missing from the floor, fix the block, leave the room and come back later. Now there's 2 holes in the floor. I kept ramping that one up until it was pretty obvious I was messing with them. Story 4. I used to live in a house with 2 of my friends who we will call John and Steve. Our system was that we were each responsible for paying one of the utilities, so we would pay the bill, post the amount on the whiteboard in the kitchen, and then reimburse each other if there was a significant difference in amounts. It wasn't typically more than a few bucks, which John and I would write off as, I'll buy you a beer or something. But Steve thought it was funny to pester us for the $2 to $3 like we owed him a crap load of money. So to return the favor, I would write him personal checks for these absurdly small amounts, just so he would have to go to the bank and deposit them. There would always be a memo along the lines of, Steve's bums and reconstruction, maybe don't clench so hard next time. Story 5. I got this USB quote-unquote easy button from a supplier that you just plug in, and every time you hit the button, it takes you to the website. So naturally, I plugged it into the back of this coworker's computer who happened to sit close to the printer. Every time I would go get a printout, I'd hit the button and hilariousness would break out. He'd scream out to the computer and the company, I'm not buying any of your crap. He spent an entire day downloading anti-malware, anything he could find. This went on for about a week until he finally decided he was going to call IS. Then another coworker filled him in. Was fun while it lasted. Story 6. My best friend and I send his little brother packages every now and then. The first one informed him that everything he will receive will be going towards creating one big item. He doesn't know who it is, so we have sent a couple of small personal items that could connect someone to him to keep him on the edge. I just take old packaging labels and put them on a box on his doorstep. He has no clue. His parents are in on it too. He has about 8 boxes of useless stuff that I just grab from my house. Rewrite him a letter every time too. Story 7. I'll do a lot of stupid little crap to irritate my friends and coworkers. Like, if I'm doing homework with a friend and he or she leaves to go to the bathroom or something, I'll do any number of the following. Close his or her laptop, take every key or card off of his or her keychain, take everything out of his or her backpack, turn the backpack inside out, put everything back in, then zip it up, called nugging. Take apart any ballpoint pens or mechanical pencils, leaving the pieces in a neatly arranged row. stacking all of his or her stuff in a pile, hiding all of his or her stuff, turning all of his or her stuff upside down in the event that he or she dog ears his or her place in a book, add a crapload of random dog ears throughout the rest of the book, open a bunch of tabs in his or her computer and pull up weird SFW pages, mostly subreddits, but sometimes I'll just Google photos of someone like Nicolas Cage or Mo Zelak. Right all over the crap. I used to have some discretion on this one in case it's something important or visible. There's some pretty funny crap my theater teacher did in high school. Like one time he runs into the classroom and says, "Okay, listen, an attendance official is about to come in, so everyone pretend to be asleep." He turns the lights off and everyone slumps forward. A few seconds later, the attendance person, a sophomore girl with an extra study hall, walks in and turns on the lights. She proceeds for the next 10 minutes to try to wake up our teacher until she gets freaked out and leaves. We wake up and have a hearty guffaw and start the lesson. About 5 minutes later, she comes back with an administrator, at which point our teacher denies point blank that anything out of the ordinary happened. Story 8. I intentionally wait for a real attractive girl and an average girl to be somewhere in the area at the same time, then proceed to position myself so that the attractive girl is in the middle of me and the average girl. I stare at the attractive girl until she visibly freaks out and comes over to ask why I'm staring at her. I usually respond, "Sorry, I didn't see you there," and turn beginning to stare at the regular girl. This has got me on multiple dates with beautiful women. Story 9. I pretend I don't get certain jokes that make people uncomfortable to explain. Example, at work a few days ago, some coworkers and I were talking and someone mentioned how as a child the comeback to "you suck" was "not as much as you swallow." I pretended like I had never heard this before and didn't understand the swallow part. They all looked at each other like, "Really?" And one proceeded to tell me what it meant. When she was almost done with her very awkward explanation, I just burst out laughing and they all knew I was messing with them. I do this stuff a lot to the same people and no one really seems to catch on. Story 10. I was a waiter at a restaurant and only girls worked there for the most part. I was always sarcastic and kind of a know-it-all to them because I had been working there for so long, but we all got along really well and we still talk from time to time. This one time a girl was like, "You remind me so much of a friend of mine from back home." And I was like, "Yeah, Brian, he's cool," completely joking and just guessing at a guy's name. She paused and her smile went from a smile to this strange, shocked look and said, "Wait, how did you know?" I played along for a while until I met her friend Brian, who looked and acted just like me, despite completely surmising his name from thin air. Story 11. When I'm walking through a door and someone is just far enough behind me that I'm not obligated to hold the door for them, I like to hold it anyway, so they feel pressured to run up to the door so I'm not standing there for too long waiting for them. They walk through the door in fake gratitude while secretly being annoyed that I made them speed up with my unnecessary politeness. When I'm walking down the street or a hallway and someone is walking in the opposite direction as me, I sometimes like to prolong the little side-to-side dance as long as possible. I move to one side of the hallway, he moves to the other, I move back to that side, he switches, I switch, and so on. Until we just kind of end up awkwardly almost bumping into each other in the middle. Also, whenever a stranger makes accidental eye contact with me for too long, I wink at them, smile slightly, and hold eye contact until they look away. When I'm meeting someone, I offer my hand for a handshake. If they go with it, fine, but most of the time they won't expect it. Either they were preparing for a fist bump or a high five or hug, or weren't expecting any sort of physical greeting. Then I'll continue to hold out the hand or reach down and grab theirs and force them into an uncomfortable and awkward handshake, all the while acting as if nothing had gone wrong and this was perfectly normal. I love interacting with people. Story 12. This wasn't an everyday thing, but it went on for about a week. Back in junior high, a couple of friends and I took a piece of scotch tape and put it on the teacher's phone line going into the wall and then plugged it back in. The wall plug was on the other side of the classroom in relation to her phone. For over a week straight, she couldn't figure out why she wasn't getting phone calls and other teachers could figure out why they couldn't call her. She ended up using her cell phone every time she needed to make a phone call until one day a repairman came, and the first thing he did was check the line into the wall, and there it is. The look on her face was priceless. Story 13. Not sure if anyone will actually read all of this, but I'll tell you about something I used to do a lot to some friends. I used to host a Minecraft Tekkit server for about 8 friends. A few weeks into playing, I found this plugin which allowed you to become invisible. I kept it to myself, and well, a lot of hilarity ensued for me. What I would do is put myself in creative mode, which gave me the ability to spawn creepers anywhere without anyone knowing. I picked 2 people, let's call them Tom and Sam. Sam was a bit clueless, and Tom was the leader of their house. I stopped playing the game actively and just began to mess with their heads. Just every time they didn't expect it, bam, a creeper would explode behind them. It became quite tactical, choosing the right place to spawn a creeper, so it would undoubtedly explode and do damage without being too obvious it was me. I can't tell you how hilarious this was to do while also being in the same call as them. After about a week, there was almost a trench of creeper explosions outside their house. It was amazing. I even used to open the doors and send creepers through, and Tom would blame it on Sam for not closing the door. Hilarious stuff. At one point, I even became uninvisible so I could help them fix the hole I basically made. I started taking it to new levels when Tom had his back burned, was opening chests, or was otherwise occupied. I would place dirt blocks behind him and break them really fast. He started to get really creeped out and even swore he saw dirt particles sometimes, but nobody believed him. I could talk about the things I did for ages, but there's just too much, so I'll just leave it at that. Story 14. My college roommate lost his car early on in our freshman year, so I drove him around a lot. Whenever he needed cash from his bank's ATM, which was in the middle of campus, we would go when foot traffic was high, around noonish, and I'd wait in the street as he went inside for the cash. Instead of walking back out, he'd hold the cash above his head, run out the door and across the street with everyone looking and scream, "Go, go, go," while I peeled out in my 92 Sentra. Oh, the memories. Also, this was in downtown Detroit. Story 15. I write very specific cards that say, "I predicted you would X," and carry one in my pocket all the time, changing it occasionally. Every couple of months, someone actually says or does to me the exact thing on the card, and I hand it to them. I don't tell anyone I do this, for they think I'm a freaking genius detective every time. I also made this game for myself I call the awkward texting game. You think of an oddly specific question. Binary questions work, for example, yes, no, such as, "What sort of allergies do you have?" and then send it to someone who you think would answer it but question why you ask. When they answer, you just don't respond because that means you win. You win more if they follow up and keep asking you why you asked. The entire fun in it is knowing that they are severely confused at your curiosity. Story 16. Well, I live in New Zealand and we have this prepaid bus card called Snapper that you can use on most buses in Wellington. So one day, as I was in Wellington City with my best friend, we came across a Chinese fresh fish store where they have countless types of fish. It was ridiculous. I had the bright idea to go into the store and buy a snapper, a type of fish, not telling my friend what I was going to do with it. After I bought it, we went around to the back of a nearby supermarket and I got out my snapper card for the bus and my box cutter. I work in packaging and shipping, and cut a small length of scales, slipping my card just under the scales and pressing the scales down to try to hide the cut. My mate was just now figuring out what I was doing and started giggling like all the time. We walked to the bus stop and waited for a bus to come, and as soon as it arrived, my mate walked on and paid. I waited at the back of the line with my fish, had wrapped it back up. When it was time to get on the bus, I hopped up to the driver, acted like I was trying to find my wallet with my card in it. After a while, I shrugged, I unwrapped my fish and held it against the card scanner. The scanner beeps as it approves my card. The driver just looks at me, not sure whether this was a joke or something and his mind had snapped. I nodded him and walked to get to my seat like nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Virtually all the people on the bus looking up at me. The fish smelled really terrible, so I got off at the next stop, scanning to get off the bus with my fish once again. Even more weird looks from people waiting at the bus stop. I didn't really know what to do with the fish now that the joke was over. So I walked up to the door of a club and handed the bouncer the fish. He didn't say anything at first, so I just walked away. That fish cost me $35. Totally worth it. Story 17. I take the train to school every day and park my car in a free lot next to the train. It gets pretty full fast and I get off school very early, so whenever I'm walking back to my car, there's always at least 4 cars slowly following me, waiting to snag my spot when I leave. In the past, people have been rude to me, yelling out their windows for me to hurry up, nearly running over me. So I like to make them work for my spot. I always take weird detours, duck behind other cars, double back, fake them out by pretending to open other cars, stuff like that. Usually only one finds me in the end and I give them a nod and let them have my spot. Story 18. We work with a lady who moved away but still works remotely. She's dumb. For example, she gets onto LogMeIn, opens an Internet Explorer from 300 miles away on our computer, then checks her Gmail account. I can't stand her, and this act of stupidity among others drives me crazy. I work in a very small business, and when she logs in remotely, she utilizes our main computer, which is a huge inconvenience. When I have extra time to spend, I sit at the computer and move the mouse, just a small amount. It's so tiny that she doesn't seem to notice, but she clicks on the wrong link. It brings an unreasonable amount of satisfaction to my day. Story 19. Whenever I visit a friend's house, if they leave me alone to go to the washroom or something, I turn every single magnet on their fridge upside down. Never been caught, never been questioned. I am the knight. These two I'm not sure counts with messing with people, but I also tend to walk really fast for whatever reason. When I come around corners, I lengthen my stride and turn my lead foot the direction I need to go in. I then slide my other foot to it and it becomes the lead foot as I walk down the new hallways. I've been told it looks like I'm going too fast around a corner. It looks like I'm almost sliding out of control. I always do a quick mental calculation of how fast I am going and where I want to end up. On the last stride, I plant my lead foot and slide into a stop. I do both of these things for no other reason than that I hope someone sees me do it and tries to figure out why I do it. Story 20. Well, I guess I don't have an evil enough mind, but my best friend calls people every day and either acts as himself and just asks you about stuff he knows you're worrying about or annoyed by, or disguises his voice as someone else and really makes you trip out about something. Like I recently went forever without working. Every day he called and asked if I'd found a job, just to annoy. And he's really good at keeping you on the phone for a minute before he starts so you don't immediately hang up on him. But he's really good at prank calls. He once called me while I was dealing with a DUI and claimed to be a sheriff. And he said he had a warrant for my arrest because I missed court. Claimed I should have gotten something in the mail recently informing me of my court date. Said I could turn myself in and have a lesser charge or they could come pick me up and arrest me, my choice. I have had a failure to appear before, so I know how serious it was. Finally, after 15 minutes of searching for this mysterious piece of mail, he slipped a little in his voice and I recognized it was him. Had never been so angry and relieved at the same time. This guy does this type of thing to someone every day. Granted, he might not get them quite as good as I was gotten. Story 21. Troll intellectuals on Reddit. I like to poke holes in arguments, but not perfectly. The original poster gets so annoyed with me, absolutely flabbergasted, pointing out how my conclusion is not 100% logical. Then I say something like, "You are correct. My comment on the internet was not 100% logical. I am so sorry. Please forgive me." Then they either catch my sarcasm or continue taking Reddit way too seriously. Actually, basically, I like getting into social groups that take something, a hobby, politics, etc., way too seriously, and then inject some absurdity into their situation. Rarely are my attempts at making them shift their perspective a success, but I shall persevere. Story 22. When I was younger, my mom used to force me to youth groups in church saying it was good, blah, 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 blah. So anyways, one of my best friend goes to the same youth group, and whenever there is a new guy that comes to my church, me and my friend would always try to scare them, telling them Christian churches are actually pretty hardcore. Both me and my friend had scars on our hands, and we would always say that we'd have to be wounded in front of the altar to let the Holy Spirit enter our body. They never believed us until we showed them our scars, and they were like, "Oh, I need to ask my parents first." And we'd go, "You are in the church now. No one has power over God, not even your parents." I mean, my friends would creepily try to calm him down, saying, "It's not going to hurt that bad. Once it's done, you will feel like a new man. Accept Christ willingly and you'd be accepted into heaven." One guy was so scared so badly, he got teary-eyed and was stuttering like crazy. Kept repeating he just wanted to make new friends. When my friend replied, Jesus was going to be his friend forever, I lost it. And if you're losing yourself in any one of these stories so far and you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 23. When getting to know people, they would ask me a question and I would stop them midway and say, "Yeah, this time when I was young, but never again." They would stop and say, "Wait, what? One time what? What happened when you were young?" Then I would usually say, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about something else, but forget it now. I don't know you that well to tell you that story." It would bother them so much they would just keep bothering me to tell them the story, which I never do because there isn't one. Story 24. Not an everyday thing, but once a few years back, I was hanging out with some of my friends. I needed to shave pretty bad, but I didn't have a razor. We decided to just go to the local store to pick some up because, well, why not? When we got there, we saw an opportunity to really mess with the cashier. So I went up to the counter nonchalantly with some razors, moisturizer, and video camera and a Darth Vader mask. As I was about to pay, one of my friends came up behind me with a box of rubbers, wrapped his arms around my neck from behind, and said in the most stereotypical gay voice ever, "Don't forget these, babe," and threw them on the counter. The look on the cashier's face was priceless, and that could probably be contributed to the fact that I looked young. Story 25. I am from suburbia, and about a year ago I moved to a bigger city. I grew up with all white kids and didn't know any black people at all. So at first, I didn't really know how to deal with all the black men hitting on me at bus stops. At first, I was really shy and didn't want to offend anyone, but I'm seriously not looking for any kind of relationship. So now when a man says, "Hey girl, you look good, where your man at?" I say, "Hello," with a big smile and a friendly wave. They never talk to me after that. We both win. Story 26. At any store, when I'm standing there waiting to get by someone and I end up having to squeeze past them, I make a moist fart noise. Oh, and if I walk past someone, I'll say hey to them like I've known them for years. I'll just blurt it out. "Hey, how you been?" And whenever I go to my cousin's house, I'll annoy the heck out of him. He'll go for a bowl of cereal and get the milk out and bowl out. Then he'll go to the back pantry to get the cereal out. Meanwhile, I put the milk and bowl away. This occurs in many variations. Story 27. We had canned vegetables at my old work, so I decided to empty out my friend's opaque drink cup and filled it with canned mushroom juice. The cups had straws, and we were usually in a hurry when getting a little drink break. He freaked the crap out. I heard him throw the cup on the ground and very audibly spit out the juice all over the wall he was next to. He yelled a bit, but he knew instantly who was the culprit. I actually got punched in the shoulder and thrown across the table for that little prank. He doesn't take jokes very well. Story 28. I have a friend that I used to mess with in class. Every time this guy walked up and left his desk, I would take his pen or pencil and put it in my backpack. The first few times, he was just like, "What happened to my pencil?" Oh well. After 20 pencils, he would start to get very angry and start questioning people, including me. But I managed to keep a straight face every time he asked me. After about 30 pencils, I decided to stop. This guy was the type of guy to walk into class and leave his backpack there to go talk to his friends for the remainder of the period. One day, when I noticed his backpack on his desk, I decided to put all 30 pencils inside his backpack and walk out of the classroom myself and not return until he came back so he would not assume that it was me. It took him a while to realize it too. About 15 minutes into class, I just heard a "what the heck?" from behind me and almost lost it. He still does not know who did it. Alright, so this story actually got me cracked up. Good stuff, and it takes a lot of patience to steal 20 pencils and then 30 pencils and then eventually give them all back. Story 29. When customers ask for super specific things that are clearly stated on the menu as it will come with the meal. Example, pickles are listed as coming with the burger and they ask me, "Make sure there are pickles." I like to hide them on the plate, like put a piece of lettuce over them or something, hide them under the fries. If they ask, "Make sure there's a tomato," I'll melt the cheese over the tomato and put the lettuce over it. Anyway, when they open up their burger and find that the thing they specifically asked for isn't there, they get enraged. And then I calmly point it out on their plate and they're still angry. It's wonderful. Story 30. I work for a large ISP and everybody with their own workstation is hooked up to a communicator program much like MSN. We were supposed to lock our computers when we leave our desk, but if someone forgets, it's fair game to mess with them. Company policy, they gotta learn. I open up a communicator and find some random person I know from another department. I'll write nothing more than "hey" and then close down the window. When the victim comes back to the computer, they will see a new communicator window where the other person has most likely responded with "hey" as well. The victim will respond back to this message and the confusion is complete. Story 31. This was just one time, but over my winter break, I worked as a lot attendant at a car dealership. One day, my boss had me make telemarketing calls, letting people know about some $50 thing GMC was giving them. 75% of the time, I would end up with their voicemail, so I'd say stuff like, "Hello, Mr. X, this is the Casanova, calling from X Automotive Group. I'd like to inform you that your name has been randomly selected and you have won a brand new car." Just kidding. And then go on with a prompt. I was just so bored after about 20 pages of names to call. Story 32. When I was in Afghanistan, I used to telnet into users' machines and type in the shutdown command that put a little box on their screen that said, "Shutting down in XXX seconds, save your work." I'd set it for like 15 seconds or so they would go crazy trying to save all their orders, emails, whatever they were working on. Then I do a shutdown right before the system shut off to abort the shutdown. I'm the admin, so they would always come in right afterwards explaining what their computer just did. I'd just kind of shrug and say maybe the RNOSC was doing updates. Good times. Imagine the sheer terror trying to save classified government information in 15 seconds because the admin is bored. Peak admin power misuse. Gotta love it, man. Story 33. I don't know if it was harmless, but at work, a coworker took the desk that I wanted, and I've been working there longer and had given the desk up once to somebody with more seniority than I. Needless to say, I was kind of mad. Well, said person always fears losing her job and is paranoid about it. She's our Oracle database admin for a few months. I had Oracle training up on my monitor so that she saw it every time she walked past my desk, because she sits right behind me now, except for that I don't like messing with people I don't know. Story 34. When someone's riding my tail on the freeway and I'm talking, I can't even see their headlights close. I tend to just slow down a bit. Speed limit is 65 in my area, and I tend to be in the leftmost lane doing 75. Cops don't really care unless you're cutting in and out of lanes like a madman. Brake checking isn't permissible, but there's no law stating I can't slow down to a more reasonable speed, so I'll just gradually let off the gas, slowing down bit by bit, letting them get closer and closer to my rear bumper. They'll then have to slow down or they'll honk or motion for me to get the hell out of their way. I'll just wave to them, acknowledging that I know they're back there, speed up a bit, then if they continue to ride my back, do the whole thing over again. I love when they try to go around me only to get blocked in by other cars in the lanes next to us. I love it even more when they ride my tail and there's a 20-car gap in the lane next to us, easy to pass me with, but they ride my back like I'm the one who should get over. I love when they drive by and yell at me from the confines of the car or gesture that I should move, and I respond by blowing them kisses and waving. I love when they get off at the next 1 to 3 exits and only make that exit about 5 seconds faster than I arrive at it. One guy actually passed me in the pullover lane and motioned like he was going to punch me, nearly running into the sidewall. He then juked over 3 lanes to his exit about a half-mile later, nearly running his car off the road in the process. Maybe these aren't harmless things I do, but they bring me joy knowing I mess with some schmuck for a few minutes out of their day. Story 35. I only do this with female friends, but I get a large kick out of messing up girls' hairs. Without fail, the claw effect, as I like to call it, it is an unbearable urge women will always fall prey to. No, I'm not meaning to claw me intensely, although some have. But without fail, they will start clawing at their hair to fix it. It's even better for the ones who have caught onto my guilty pleasure and will try their hardest to refrain from fixing it. It becomes a complete stare down with me winning 100% of the time within 5 minutes. Story 36. Every Christmas, we have a large family get-together, 30 plus people, and everyone gives gifts to other people. My father and I pick one unlucky person each and find the most hideous and worthless gift and give it to them from another relative. My father isn't bad about it and usually gets the gifts he gives back the next year. I, on the other hand, have been doing this for 5 years and haven't received a gift back yet. It really is the only thing I look forward to for Christmas, watching my unsuspecting uncle open a gift from one of his brother-in-laws. The best part is that we do this awful show and tell about who gave us what and then thank them for it. Yikes, the show and tell portion sounds like an annual exercise in forced gratitude and barely concealed horror. I'd pay to see that. Story 37. At work, we come across a remote doorbell, so we decided to use it for evil. I'm known for pranks at work, and our administrative assistant has a great sense of humor, so I included her in this prank. From this point forward, I'll refer to her as our receptionist, since it's quicker to type out than administrative assistant. Much less letters to deal with. Anyway, I asked our receptionist to order a battery for the remote button, and we adjusted the sound of the bell so it was very faint but noticeable. We took it to a coworker's cubicle and placed it underneath his pull-out drawer and put the button on the receptionist's desk with a note that said, "Press button." The doorbell sounded kind of like the bell you hear on airplanes when you have to fasten your seatbelt in case you were wondering. We didn't want the bell to be so loud that he'd look for it. He's lazy. But it had to be loud enough for him to hear and get annoyed after a few years. The first day, he slammed his fist down after 50 times of someone pressing the button and said, "What the heck?" He's very articulate. After a few days, everyone around him was in on the joke, and he never caught on that he was being pranked. He just ignored it. He even pressed the button a few times while walking past the receptionist's desks and never questioned what it was for. Stupid. But after 3 weeks or a month, one guy that sat next to him spilled the beans and it was over. Story 38. Working in the electronics department of a large retail store, I naturally have to deal with rude, ignorant customers who love to argue with me for absolutely no reason. The past few weeks, I've been kind of sick and have been pretty gassy because of it, basically making me able to fart on command. And whenever someone is being particularly rude to me and I have a feeling that they will be fighting or ranting or yelling at me for a decent amount of time, I let out a silent, dangerous fart. The look on their faces is priceless. Story 39. I learned some basic coding in my high school. Then I set up all the PCs, so when someone opened Internet Explorer, they got a pop-up saying, "I am Mr. Blot. I know your name and where you're sitting. Do not look away from your screen. Just wait for 5 beeps and your PC will turn off. Do not move." Then 5 system beeps followed and their PC would shut down. After 2 weeks doing that, all the school screens were asking Mr. Blot to report to the school director. I tried thinking of an endgame for Mr. Blot. So in the meantime, random pop-ups would appear on the PCs with the message, "Courtesy of Mr. Blot," while an unexpected and inappropriate video, you know the kind, plays. After some weeks of being Mr. Blot, I came up with my endgame. I made some PCs to go through infinite system beeps at the room's most crowded time, and some PCs to shut off at random times. Then when I got on my bike to go home that day, I saw 23 PCs standing outside of the school, and the janitor with an air blower blowing air into them. They thought the PCs were overheating. That was the ending of Mr. Blot. Story 40. My favorite one is when I'm at home or someone else's house. When someone is sitting on the couch all comfy and crap and I'm about to go out, I ask, "Can I see the remote for a sec?" And I just turn the TV to mute and leave it on the far side of the room and say, "See ya," and leave. It's amazing how furious they get. I had an engineering teacher that I always used to get the younger students with this. If they came into the room to ask for something, he'd say just before they go out, "Actually, when you're going, will you just call into reception and ask them for the skirting board ladder and bring it to me? Thanks." Students would return a few minutes later confused, or they would realize what he meant. It's good fun because we sit and look at the door for a few minutes until they return. Story 41. I used to tape people's phones under their desks. I love it when they call their phone while searching for it, hearing the sound obviously coming from the desk, but have no idea where the frickin' phone is. Once I faked college acceptance letters into gender studies and sent it to 3 friends who both happily had jobs and had no interest in college whatsoever. They freaked out and thought somebody had signed them up for the university. A lot of hard work went into those letters, and I even printed the university logo on the envelopes. I then added my own university email at the bottom if they wanted to contact the university. Shame they didn't. I think one of them still doesn't know I did it. Oh yeah, and I also taped all of my cousin's personal garments up in his window. I get bored easily. Story 42. For a white elephant party last Christmas, I got these animal figurines. I got a turtle, a deer, and a white tiger. I went to academic counseling at my college, and there was a potted plant on the table that I was sitting at. While I was waiting, I inconspicuously planted the turtle in the plant. The colors blended in so well, you wouldn't notice it at first glance. Once you saw it, it was kind of surprising, like, what the heck, is that a turtle? Hey Jim, do you see that? Anywho, about 4 months later, I forgot about it. I walked by the office one day and somebody moved it to the front desk. Right next to it, there was a frame that had some humor quote. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Needless to say, I felt pretty damn awesome. I went home that day feeling inspired. I went to my junk drawer and found the tiny deer and white tiger. Went to school and eventually switched the turtle with the deer. The deer looked better with the plant. Today, more than a year later, I walk by the office and alas, there is the cute little deer. No potted plants this time, just the deer. I saw this Reddit and was reminded. I went to my junk drawer and found that little turtle again. I know what I'm going to do when I get back to school. Story 43. There is a company in my office suites that rents out one small office but then uses both meeting rooms, which they think they can book for months at a time, and the kitchen area as their other offices, making it difficult for people to ever use them. It was so bad when they first came that we literally couldn't use our router because they took up all the building's bandwidth. They rent a 10 by 10 office space, by the way. So now to what I find pleasure in doing. Since they use our kitchen area as an office, they can hear the loud, annoying beep that the locked door makes when it opens down the hall. I never thought about it, but the other day they were complaining to the building manager that the noise distracted their work. So now, every chance I get, I purposely go out of my way to go through that door so there was a loud, annoying sound every time. Story 44. I tell them, good morning, no matter what time it is. If someone questions this, my typical response is, well, I don't know what time you woke up, but... Also, if someone declares that they're going to the bathroom, I say, have fun. Since I work in retail, this happens at least once every 2 days, if not every day, since it's part of normal communication, letting your coworker know that you'll be unavailable for a few minutes. And my typical response to anyone questioning that is, well, if you don't enjoy the experience, there may be a serious problem. Story 45. Back when Modern Warfare 2 came out, I played it on PC with a physics modder and would just do subtle things. In Search and Destroy, for instance, I would teleport players to one another at random points, chaos ensuing. Sometimes I get creative and throw Semtex grenades on my teammates, then teleport them to enemy spawn at the beginning of the game. My favorite by far, though, was slowly changing the gravity of the map until people thought they were going crazy. Changing people's names was fun too. I was banned quickly. Story 46. A guy at my work who sat next to me and I hated and pestered me with inane chatter constantly had a very odd system of organizing his week. He had a notebook, he drew a margin down the left side and top of the page. Along the left, he wrote a series of times from 9 to 5 p.m., and along the top, he wrote days of the week. He then wrote down post-it notes of activities he would do and stuck them onto the page for where he would do the activities. It was like a manually created Outlook calendar. The ridiculous thing is that this guy has a freaking laptop he carries everywhere with him, so why the need for this book? So anyway, he'd leave this book there wide open when he went home, so when no one was around, I would go and casually change his lunch break to an hour later. The one-on-one meeting with his boss on Wednesday would be rescheduled for Thursday. His 10 a.m. Thursday teleconference was at 9 a.m. On an unrelated note, this was given a redundancy. Story 47. When I'm in the car and some schmuck honks at me for no reason or generally trying to make me mad, I go full-on wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Usually they assume I'm insane and avoid eye contact, but one time it was glorious. So I was trying to be polite and let some dude exit a gas station while I waited at a red light, but the guy behind me disagreed with my politeness and started honking at me and clearly screaming at me with his whole family in the car. It was like 6 a.m. and I yelled, "Oh yeah, take this," and started passionately flailing. He immediately starts to mimic me and I start flailing even more intensely all while keeping eye contact. His whole family joins him. And if you like these stories, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.